Good evening, friend.
Good evening, Miss Rogers.
Is that the boat?
Yes,
Oh dear, already? Have you remembered everything?
I believe so. Lemons, slip soles, eggs, cream, butter, and sugar. That was all, wasn't it?
That's right. So much to do and I don't know where to start. No maids till tomorrow and all these guests arriving today?
Oh, calm down, Ethel. Everything's shipshape now. It looks nice, don't it, Fred?
Place looks neat enough to me. Kinda bare, but rich folks like it bare, it seems.
Rich folks is clear.
It was a queer sort of gentleman who built this place. Spent a wicked load of money on it, he did. And besides, he gets bored of it or up and sells the whole thing.
Beats me why the Owens wanted to buy it. Living on an island?
Oh, come off it, Ethel. And take all the stuff into the kitchen. They'll be here any minute now.
Making that steep climb an excuse for a drink like some others I know.
That be young Jim. I'll be getting on now. There are 2 gentlemen arriving by cars, I understand.
Yes, I shall want at least 5 loaves and 8 pints of milk, remember?
Right.
Don't forget the oil for the engine, Fred. I ought to charge it up tomorrow or I'll have lights running down.
It was held up on railway. It's at the station now. I'll bring it across first thing in the morning.
And give me a hand with the luggage, will you?
Right.
I forgot to give you the list of guests, Tom.
Ah, thanks, old girl. Let's see. Well, doesn't that look like a very classy lot to me? Miss Claythorne, she'll probably be the secretary.
I don't hold much with secretaries. Worse than hospital nurses. In them giving themselves airs and graces and looking down on the servants.
Oh, stop browsing, Ethel, and cut along to that lovely, updated, expensive kitchen of yours.
Too many newfangled gadgets for my fancy.
And then he tumbled down the stairs. So, this is it.
How perfectly lovely.
Miss Claythorne.
Oh, you're Rogers?
Yes, good evening, miss.
Good evening, Rogers. Would you bring up my luggage in Captain Lombard's?
Very good, miss.
You've been here before?
No, but I've heard a lot about this place.
From Mr. and Mrs. Owen?
No, Johnny Brewer, an old pal of mine, built this place. It's a sad and poignant story.
A love story?
Yes, ma'am. The saddest of all. He was a wealthy old business boy, married the famous Lily Logan. They got married and he built this place and about this island.
Sounds most romantic.
Poor Johnny, he thought by cutting her off from the rest of the world without even a telephone as a means of communication, he could hold her.
But of course, the fair Lily tired of her ivory tower and escaped.
Uh-huh. Johnny went back to Wall Street, made a few more millions, and the place was sold.
And here we are. Well, I ought to find Mrs. Owen. The others will be up in a minute.
It would be very rude to leave me up here by myself.
Would it? Oh, well, I wonder where she is.
She'll come when she's ready. While we're waiting, do you mind if I have a drink? I'm very dry.
Of course you could.
It's warm after that steep climb. What's yours?
No, thank you. Not for me. Not on duty.
A good secretary's never off duty.
Really, this is exciting.
What is?
All this. The smell of the sea, the gulls, the beach, and this lovely house. I'm going to enjoy myself.
I think you are. I think we both are. Here's to you. You're very lovely.
Where is Mrs. Owen?
Mr. and Mrs. Owen won't be down from London until tomorrow, miss. I thought you knew.
Tomorrow, but
I've got a list here of the guests expected, miss, if you'd like to have it. The second boatload's just arriving.
thank you. How awful, I say. You'll be sweet and help me, won't you?
I won't leave your side.
Thank you. It seems silly to have brought only us in the first boat and all the rest in the second.
That, I'm afraid, was design, not accident.
Design? What do you mean?
Well, I suggested to the boatman that there was no need to bring any more passengers. That 5 shillings soon started up the engine.
You shouldn't have done that.
Well, they're not the most exciting lot, are they?
I thought the young man was rather nice looking.
Callow. Definitely callow. And very, very young.
I suppose you think a man in his 30s is more attractive?
I don't think, my darling. I know.
Wizard place you have there. I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow. Oh, too bad. May I introduce Captain Lombard, Mr.
Marston. Anthony Marston.
Have a drink, sir?
Oh, thank you.
What will you have? Gin, whiskey, sherry?
Whiskey, I think.
Wonderful place you have here.
I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
Say when?
How, Wizard?
How are you?
Hello, sir. The name's Lombard. Have a drink, Mr.
Davis. Davis is your name.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Marston.
Pleased to meet you, Mr. Marston. Don't mind if I do. Bit of a stiff climb up here, but woo! What a height! What a view! Reminds me of South Africa, this place.
Does it? What part?
Oh, we're Natal, Durban, you know.
Really?
Well, here's to temperance. Do you know South Africa?
Me? No.
Well, that's where I'm from. It's my natal state.
Interesting country, I should think.
Finest country in the world, sir. Diamonds, gold, silver, oranges, everything a man can want. Think of a land flowing with beer and skittles.
How do you do?
General Mackenzie, isn't it? I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow. May I introduce Captain Lombard, Mr. Marston, and Mr.
Davis. Davis is the name.
Whiskey and soda, sir? Thanks. You in the service? Formerly in the King's African Rifles. Too tame for me in peacetime. Chucked. Pity. When?
Where's Mrs. Owen?
Miss Brent, isn't it? I'm Mrs. Owen's secretary. Mrs. Owen has been detained in London, I'm afraid, and won't be down until tomorrow.
Indeed. Extraordinary. Did she miss the train?
I expect so. Won't you have something? May I introduce Captain Lombard, General Mackenzie, Mr. Marston, I think you all met on the boat, and Mr.
Davis. Davis is the name. May I take your case?
Do let me get you a drink. Dry martini. Glass of sherry. Whiskey and soda.
I never touch alcohol.
You never touched alcohol?
I suppose you know, young man, you left us there standing on the wharf.
I'm afraid, Miss Brent, I was to blame for that. I wanted to.
It seems to me most extraordinary that Miss Owen is not here to greet her guests.
Perhaps she's the kind of person that just can't help missing trains.
That's what I reckon she is.
No, Mrs. Owen isn't like that in the least.
Perhaps it was her husband's fault.
She hasn't got a husband. I should like to go to my room.
Yes, of course. I'll take you there.
You'll find Mrs. Rogers upstairs, miss. She'll show you the room.
I'm afraid our host and hostess haven't arrived, sir. The name's Lombard.
Mine's Morgrave. How do you do?
How do you do, sir? Drink?
Yes, please. Oh, whiskey.
Interesting place you got here. Quite unique.
Yes, as you say. Quite unique.
Your drink, sir.
Old Badger Berkeley rolled up yet?
Who did you say?
Badger Berkeley. He wrote something to the show. When is he coming?
I don't think he's coming. Nobody by the name of Berkeley.
That dirty old double-crosser. He let me down. Well, rather Wizard Island. Rather wizard girl, that secretary. She ought to liven things up a bit. I say, old man, what about dressing for dinner, if there's time?
Let's go and explore.
How, wizard?
Things are a bit at 6s and 7s with the Owens not turning up.
Tricky one. I say wizard place for the holidays, what?
Are you going to sit down?
Well, to tell you the truth, you seem to be in my chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were one of the family.
It's not that exactly. To tell you the truth, I've never been here before. But you see, I live at the Benton Club. Have for the last 10 years. And my seat is just about there. Can't get used to sitting anywhere else.
Ah, become a bit of a habit?
Yes, it certainly does. Thank you. Well, it's not quite as good as the club, but it's a nice chair. To tell you the truth, I was a bit surprised when I got this invitation. Haven't had anything of the sort for well over 4 years. Very nice of them, I thought.
Ah, yes. Is Lady Constance Comington expected here? Can you tell me?
Lady Constance Comington? I don't think so, sir. Unless she's coming down with Mr. and Mrs. Owen.
Oh,
Allow me. Can I have your keys, sir?
No thanks, I'll pack myself.
Dinner is at 8 o'clock. Shall I show you to your rooms?
Please.
Here you are, sir. I'll call for Rogers.
How are you? Davis. Davis is the name.
Mine's Armstrong.
Dr. Armstrong, I believe.
Yes.
Thought so. Never forget a face.
Don't tell me I've forgotten one of my patients.
Oh no, nothing like that. But I once saw you in court giving expert evidence.
Oh, really? Are you interested in the law?
Well, I'm from South Africa, you see, and so naturally legal processes in this country are bound to colonial.
Oh, yes, of course.
Have a drink?
No, thank you. I never touch it.
Mind if I do? Mine's empty.
Nothing.
You know, I've been having a look around this island. Wonderful place.
Wonderful. I thought as I was coming off the mainland what a haven of peace this was.
Too peaceful for some, I dare say.
Wonderfully restful. Wonderful for the nerves. I'm a nerve specialist, you know.
Oh, I know that. Did you come down by train?
No, I motored down. Dropped in on a patient on the way. Great improvement. Wonderful response.
Best part of 200 miles, is it not? Did it take you long?
No, I didn't hurry. I never hurry. Bad for the nerves. Some mannerless young fellow nearly drove me into the ditch near Amesbury. Shot past me about 80 miles an hour. Disgraceful bit of driving. I'd like to have had his number.
Yes, and if more people would take the time to get the numbers of these young road hogs.
Yes. You must excuse me. I must have a word with Mr. Owen.
But Mr. Owen isn't coming down.
You rang, sir?
Yes. Would you take my hat? What time's supper?
Dinner's at 8 o'clock, sir. In a quarter of an hour. I think tonight's dressing will be optional.
Wonderful place you have here.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Been here long?
Just under a week, sir.
Is that all? So I suppose you don't know much about the crowd that's here, huh?
No, sir.
All old friends of the family?
I really couldn't say, sir.
Rogers, could you put a bottle of beer and some sandwiches by my bed? I got a hell of an appetite with the sea air.
I'll see what I can do, sir.
Great. Rogers. I see you won't lose by it. Where's my room?
I'll show you, sir.
Thanks. And I can do with a wash and a brush up straight away.
Oh, there you are, Rogers. You ought to clear these dirty glasses. You're always leaving the dirty work to me. Here I am with the four-course dinner on my hands and no one to help me. You mind giving me a hand with the dishing up? Who was that you were talking to, by the way?
Davis, South African gentleman. No class, if you ask me, and no money either.
Don't like them. Don't like any of them much. We're like that bunch we had at the boarding house, I'd say.
Davis gives out he's a millionaire or something. You should see his underwear. Cheap as they make them.
Well, as I said, it's not treating us right. All these guests arriving today and no maids till tomorrow? Who do they think we are?
Now then. Anyway, the money's good.
So it ought to be. Catch me going in the service again unless the money was good.
Well, it is good. So what are you going on about?
Well, I can tell you this, Rogers. I'm not staying in any place where I'm put upon. Cooking's my business. I'm a good cook.
First rate, old girl.
But the kitchen's my place and housework's none of my business. All these guests. I've got a good mind to put my hat and coat on right now and go straight back to Plymouth.
You can't do that, old girl.
Why not? Who says I can't? I should like to know.
Because you're on an island, old girl. Had you forgotten that?
Yes, and I don't know if I fancy being on an island.
Don't know that I do either, come to that. No slipping down to the pub or going to the pictures. Ah, well. It's double wages on account of the difficulties. And there's plenty of beer in the house.
That's all you ever think about, beer.
Now then, stop your nagging and get back to the kitchen or your dinner will be spoiled.
It'll be spoiled anyway, I expect. Everybody's going to be late. Wasted on them. Thank goodness I didn't make my souffle. Oh, dinner won't be a minute, miss. Just the question of dishing up.
Is everything all right, Roger? Rogers. Can you manage between the two of you?
Yes, thank you, miss. The missus talks a lot, but she gets it done.
What a lovely evening.
Yes, indeed. The weather seems very settled.
How plainly one can hear the sea.
A pleasant sound.
Hardly a breath of wind and deliciously warm. Not like England at all.
I should have thought you might feel a little uncomfortable in that dress.
Oh, no.
It's rather tight, isn't it?
Oh, I don't think so.
You'll excuse me, miss, but you're a young girl, and you've got your living to earn.
Yes?
A well-bred woman doesn't like her secretary to appear flashy. It looks as though, you know, you were trying to attract the attention of the opposite sex.
And would you say I do attract them?
That's besides the point. A woman who deliberately sets out to get the attention of men won't likely keep her job very long.
Surely that depends on who she's working for.
Really, Miss Claythorne?
Aren't you being a little unkind?
Young people nowadays behave in the most disgusting fashion.
Disgusting.
Yes, low-backed evening dresses, lying half-naked on beaches, all of this so-called sunbathing, an excuse for immodest conduct, nothing more. Familiarity, Christian names drinking cocktails. And look at the young men nowadays, decadent. That young Mr. Marston, what good is he? And that Captain Lombard.
What do you object to in Captain Lombard? I should say he was a man who's led a very varied and interesting life.
The young man's an adventurer. This new generation is no good at all.
You don't like youth, I see.
What do you mean?
I was just remarking that you don't like young people.
Is there any reason why I should, pray?
Oh, no. But it seems to me that you must miss an awful lot.
You're very impertinent.
I'm sorry, but that's just what I think.
The world will never improve until we stamp out all immodesty.
Quite pathological.
What did you say?
Nothing.
What about the old boy?
He looks rather like a tortoise, don't you think so?
All judges look like tortoises. They have that venomous way of turning their head in and out. Mr. Justice Wargrave is no exception.
I hadn't realized he was a judge.
Oh, yes. He's probably responsible for sending more innocent people to their death than anyone else in England. Hello, do you two know each other? Mr. Armstrong, Miss Claythorne? Armstrong and I have just decided that the old boy...
Yes, I heard you, and so did he, I think.
Oh, Sir Lawrence,
It's Brent, isn't it?
would you come out here? There's something I'd like to discuss.
Quite remarkable partner.
Absolute wizard car, a supercharged sports Marletti Carlotta. I don't see many of those on the road.
I can get over 100 out of her.
Did you come in from London?
Yes, 208 miles, and I did it in a bit over 4 hours. Too many cars on the road that'll keep it up. Touched 90 going over Salisbury Plain. Not too bad, eh?
I think you passed me on the road.
Oh, yes?
You nearly drove me into the ditch.
Did I? Sorry.
If I'd seen your number, I'd have reported you.
But you were too busy foodling along the middle of the road.
Foodling? Oh, me foodling?
How about a drink?
Good idea. Will you have one, Miss Claythorne?
No, thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. Owen.
Why, Mrs. Owen?
Make the most attractive wife for any wealthy businessman.
Do you always flirt so outrageously?
Always.
Oh, well, now we know.
Tell me, what's Miss Brent talking to the old Justice Wargrave about? She tried to buttonhole him upstairs.
I don't know. It's funny, she seemed so definite that there wasn't a Mr. Owen.
You don't think that Mrs. Owen, or that they're...
Married?
Damn, she wouldn't know each other. I could have given you a lift down.
Yes, that would have been grand.
Like so we can do across Salisbury Plain. Tell you what, maybe we could drive back together. But it seems damn silly. I've got an empty car.
Yes, but she likes the way she's coming back.
Oh, look! Aren't they sweet, those 10 little China soldiers? Oh, and look, there's the old nursery rhyme.
What are you talking about? What soldiers? What rhyme?
10 little soldier boys went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little soldier boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then they were 8.
8 little soldier boys traveling in Devon. One got left behind, and then there were 7.
Ladies and gentlemen, silence please. You are charged with these indictments that you did, respectively, and at diverse times, commit the following. Edward Armstrong, that you did cause the death of Louisa Mary Cleese. William Henry Blore, that you brought about the death of James Stephen Landor. Emily Caroline Brent, that you were responsible for the death of Beatrice Taylor. Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, that you killed Peter Ogilvy Hamilton. Philip Lombard, that you were guilty of the deaths of 21 men, members of an East African tribe. John Gordon Mackenzie, that you sent your wife's lover, Arthur Richmond, to his death. Anthony James Marston, that you were guilty of the murder of John and Lucy Combs. Thomas Rogers and Ethel Rogers, that you brought about the death of Jennifer Brady. Lawrence John Wargrave, that you were guilty of the murder of Edward Seaton. Prisoners at the bar, have you anything to say in your defense?
Mrs. Ross,
Miss Rogers.
what's happening?
You're right.
Lie her down here. It's nothing much. She's fainted, that's all. She'll be round in a minute. Get some brandy.
Rogers, get some brandy.
Who was that speaking? It sounded...
What's going on here? What kind of practical joke was that?
Where in the devil did that voice come from?
Ladies and gentlemen, silence please. You are charged with these indictments that you did, respectively, and at diverse times, commit the following. Edward Armstrong, that you did cause the death of Louisa Mary...
Here we are!
Turn it off! Turn
William-
it off! It's horrible!
A disgraceful and heartless practical joke.
So you think it's a joke, do you?
What else could it be?
Well, at the moment, I'm not prepared to give my opinion.
Who the devil turned on, though, instead of going?
That's exactly what we must inquire into.
Oh, dear me,
Allow me, sir. I might speak to her. Ethel? Ethel, it's all right. It's all right. Do you hear? Pull yourself together.
You'll be all right now, Mrs. Rogers. Just a nasty turn.
Did I faint, sir?
Yes.
It was that voice, that awful voice like a judgment.
Where's the brandy?
I got it.
Drink this, Mrs. Rogers.
Oh, I'm all right. I just gave me a turn.
Of course it did. It gave me a turn, too. I'd like to know
Who
who...
put the record on the gramophone? Was it you, Rogers?
I was only obeying orders, sir.
Whose orders?
Mr. Owens.
Let me get this quite clear. Mr. Owen's orders were what, exactly?
I was to put a record on the gramophone in the study. I'd find the records in the drawer in there. I was to start with that one, sir. I thought it was just to give you all some music.
Very remarkable story.
It's the truth, sir. Before heaven, it's the truth. I didn't know what it was, not for a moment. It had a name on it. I thought it was just a piece of music.
Is there a title?
Title? Yes, it is entitled Swan Song.
The whole thing's preposterous. Preposterous. Slinging accusations about like this, something must be done about it. This fellow Owen, whoever he is.
That's just it. Who is he?
That's exactly what we must go into. Very carefully. I suggest you bring your wife to bed, Rogers, and come back here.
I'll give you a hand.
Will she be all right, Doctor?
Yes, quite all right.
I don't know about you, sir, but I need another drink.
I agree.
I'll get 'em.
Preposterous, definitely. Preposterous.
Whiskey for you, Sir Lawrence?
Yes, please.
I'll have a glass of water.
Yes, I'll get it. I'll have a little whiskey, too.
She'll be all right. I've given her a sedative.
Now surely, after all of this, Doctor, you'll want a drink.
No, thank you. I never touch it.
So you said. You have this one, General?
Now, Rogers, you must get to the bottom of this. Tell me what you know of Mr. Owen.
He owns the place, sir.
I'm aware of that fact. What I want you to tell me is what you know yourself of the man.
I couldn't say, sir. You see, I've never seen him.
What do you mean you've never seen him?
We've only been here just under a week, sir. My wife and I, we were engaged by a letter through a registry office, the Regina in Plymouth.
That's a high-class firm. We can look into that.
Do you have the letter?
The letter engaging us? Yes, sir.
Go on with your story.
We arrived here like the letter said, on the 4th. Everything was in order. Plenty of food and stocking. Everything was very nice. Just needed dusting and that.
What next?
Nothing, sir. That is, we received orders to prepare rooms for a house party. 8. Then yesterday by the morning post, we received another letter saying that Mr. and Mrs. Owen might be detained in London, and if so, we was to do the best that we could. And it gave the instructions about the gramophone record and dinner. Here it is, sir.
Edwards Hotel in typewritten.
Coronation machine number 5, quite new. Ends in paper, no defects. We shan't do too much of this. We can try it for fingerprints. It's been handled too much. But
Quite the little detective.
Got some fancy Christian names, hasn't he? Alec, Norman, Owen, quite a mouthful.
I'll oblige to you, Marson. You have drawn my attention to a quite suggestive and curious point. I think it's time for us all to pull our information. I think it would be well if everyone came forward regarding our unknown host. We are all his guests. I think it'd be profitable if each one of us were to explain exactly how that came about.
The letter I received was peculiar. It was very difficult to read. It claimed to be from a woman whom I had met 2 or 3 years ago at a summer resort. I took the name to be Ogden. I'm fairly certain I've never met nor become friendly with anyone by the name of Owen.
Do you have a letter, Miss Brent?
Yes, I will fetch it for you.
Miss Claythorne?
I never actually met Mrs. Owen. I wanted a holiday post and applied to a secretarial agency, Miss Grenfell's in London. I was offered this post and accepted.
You're never interviewed by your prospective employer?
No. This is the letter.
Soldier Island, Sticklehaven, Devon. I have received your name from Glenville's agency and understand she knows you personally. I shall be glad to pay you the salary you ask and expect you to take up your duties on August 8th. A train at 12:10 from Paddington to Oakbridge Station, where you'll be met. I enclose £5 for the expenses. Yours truly, Lynn Owen. Mr. Marston?
Don't actually know the Owens. Got a wire from a pal of mine, Badger Berkeley. Surprised me a bit because I didn't get the old force to go to Norway. I haven't got the wire.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
In the circumstances, I think I may admit that my visit here was professional. Mr. Owen wrote to me that he was worried about his wife's health, her nerves to be precise. He wanted a report without her being alarmed. He therefore suggested that my visit here be regarded as that of an ordinary guest.
But you have no acquaintance with the family?
No.
But you had no hesitation in obeying the summons?
A colleague of mine was mentioned, and a very handsome fee was suggested. I was due for a holiday anyway.
Dear Miss Brent, I hope you remember me from Bellhaven's guest house in August some years ago. We seem to have so much in common, and I'm hosting my own guest house party on an island off the coast of Devon. I think there's a real opening for this place where there's good old plain English cooking and old-fashioned types of persons. None of this nudity and gramophone half the night. I shall be glad to see you spending your summer holiday on Soldier Island as my guest, of course, from Paddington to Oak Bridge at 12:40. Yes, the signature is quite ambiguous.
I like the nudity touch.
Here's my decoy letter. It was from an old friend of mine, Lady Constance Comington. She wrote in her usual vague and incohesive ways, urging me to join her on this island. And she referred to her host and hostess in the vaguest of terms.
Look here, I've just thought
Just a minute.
But
We will get to one thing at a time if you don't mind, Captain Lombard. General Mackenzie,
Got a letter from this fellow Owen. Thought I must have met him sometime at the club. Mentioned some old cronies of mine who were to be here. Hope that excused me for my invitation. Haven't kept the letter, I'm afraid.
and you, Captain Lombard.
Same sort of thing. Letter mentioning mutual friends, and I haven't kept it either.
Just now, we all had a somewhat disturbing experience. A supposed disembodied voice all spoke to us by name, uttering certain definite accusations. We will get to those accusations presently, but at the moment I have interest in a minor point. Amongst the names received was one William Henry Blore. As far as we know, no one named Blore is amongst us. The name Davis was not mentioned. What do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Davis?
Cat's out of the bag, it seems. I suppose I better admit my name isn't Davis.
You are William Henry Blore.
That's right.
Not only are you here under a false name, Blore, but I've discovered this evening that you're a first-class liar. You claim to have come from natal South Africa. I know South Africa and Natal quite well, and I am prepared to swear that you've never set foot there in your life.
You gentlemen have got me all wrong. I'm an ex-CID man.
Oh, a copper!
I got my credentials and I can prove it. I run a detective agency in Plymouth, and I was put on to the job.
By whom?
By Mr. Owen. He sent me a nice money order for the expenses and told me I was to come to the Cows party posing as a guest. He also sent me a list of all of your names and said that I was to keep an eye on you.
Any reason given?
Said Mrs. Owens has got some fancy jewels, but... Well, Mrs. Owens, my foot. I don't believe there's any such person.
Your conclusions, I think, are justified. Ola Norman Owen, Una Nancy Owen. Each time you say you and Owen, or in a slight church of fancy, unknown.
But it's fantastic! Mad!
Oh, yes! I have no doubt in my mind that we have been invited here by a madman, possibly dangerous, homicidal lunatic.
My God.
Whoever it is enticed us here took a very great deal into finding about us. A very great deal. And of his knowledge concerning us, he's made certain definite accusations.
It's
Okay.
I
would like to say something. Our unknown friend accuses me of murdering one Edward Seaton. I remember seeing perfectly well. He came before me in trial in 1930. Was convicted of murdering an elderly woman. He was ably defended and made a good impression with the jury in the witness box. Nonetheless, on the evidence, he was certainly guilty. So I summoned up accordingly, and the jury brought in the verdict of guilty, passing the sentence of death. I fully concurred this sentence. The appeal was on the grounds of misdirect. The appeal was dismissed and the man was duly executed. I'd like to say to you all that my conscience on this matter is perfectly clear. I did my job and nothing more, passing sentence on a rightfully convicted murderer.
Did you know Sean at all? I mean, personally?
I knew nothing of Sean prior to trial.
The old boy's lying. I swear he's lying.
Fellow's a madman, absolute madman, got a bee in his bonnet, got hold of the wrong end of the stick. Best really to leave this sort of thing unanswered. However, I feel I ought to say no truth whatever, in what he said about young Arthur Richmond. Richmond was one of my officers. I sent him on reconnaissance in 1917. He was killed. Also like to say, resent very much. Slur on my wife. Been dead a long time. Best woman in the world. Absolutely Caesar's wife.
You know, I've been thinking. John, Lucy Combs, must have been the kids I ran over here at Cambridge. Beastly bad luck.
For them or for you?
Well, for for me. But of course you're right. I'd love for him too. Of course it was just an accident. They married at some cottage or another. I had my license suspended for a year. Beastly nuisance.
This speeding's all wrong. All wrong. Young men like you are a danger to the community.
Well, I couldn't help it. It was just an accident.
If I might say something, sir.
Go ahead, Rogers.
There was a mention, sir, of me and Mrs. Rogers and of Miss Jennifer Brady. There isn't a word of truth in it. We were with Miss Brady the night she died. She was always in Fort Holster, always from the time we came to her. There was a storm, sir, the night that she died. The telephone was out of order and we couldn't get a doctor to her. I went for him, sir, on foot, but we got there too late. We done everything possible for her. Devoted to her we were. Anyone will tell you the same. There was never a word said against us. Never a word.
Coming to a little something nice of your death, did you?
Miss Brady left us a legacy in recognition of our faithful service. And why not, I should know?
What about you, Blore?
What about me?
Your name was on the list.
Oh, that's right. For Stephen Landor or something. That was the London and Commercial Bank robbery.
I remember that name, though it ain't before me in trial. Landor was convicted on your evidence. You are the police officer in charge of the case.
I wasn't Lord.
Landor got penal servitude for life and died in Dartmoor a year later. He was a delicate man.
He was a crook! It was him who did that night watchman out. The case was clear from the start.
You were complimented, I think, on your ability of handling the case.
I got my promotion. I was only doing my duty.
Convenient word, duty. What about you, Doctor?
I'm at a loss to understand the matter. The name meant nothing to me. What was it? Close? I really don't remember having a patient of that name or it's being connected with a death in any way. The thing is a complete mystery to me. Of course, it was a long time ago. It might have possibly been one of my operation cases in the hospital. They come too late, so many of these people. Then, when the patient dies, it's always the surgeon's fault.
It's best to take up nerve cases and give up surgery. Some give up drink.
I protest! You've no right to insinuate such things. I never touch alcohol.
My dear fellow, I never suggested that you did. Anyway, Mr. Unknown Owen is the only one who knows all the facts.
Miss Claythorne.
I was nursery governess to Peter Hamilton. We were in Cornwall for the summer. He was forbidden to swim out far, and one day when my attention was distracted, he started off. As soon as I saw what happened, I swam after him, but I couldn't get there in time.
Was there an inquest?
Yes, I was exonerated by the coroner. His mother didn't blame me either.
Thank you. Miss Brent?
I have nothing to say.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You refuse your defense?
There is no question of defense. I've always acted according to my conscience.
What a law-abiding lot we seem to be. Myself accepted.
We are waiting for your story, Captain Lombard.
I haven't got a story.
What do you mean?
Sorry to disappoint you all, it's just... I plead guilty. It's perfectly true. I left those natives to die alone in the bush. Matter of self-preservation.
You abandoned your men?
I know. Not the act of a proper gentleman, I'm afraid, but after all, self-preservation is a man's first duty. And, natives don't mind dying, They don't feel about it the way Europeans do.
Our inquest rests there. Now, Rogers, tell me, who else is on this island besides yourself, you, and your wife?
Nobody, sir. Nobody at all.
Are you sure?
Quite sure, sir.
Thank you. Don't go, Rogers. I'm not quite sure in our unknown host assembling us here, but in my opinion, he's not sane. Not accepted in the normal sense of the word. He may be dangerous, and I think it'd be well if we leave this island as soon as possible. I would even suggest tonight.
I beg your pardon, sir, but there's no boat on the island.
What? No boat at all.
No, sir.
Well, why not just telephone to the mainland?
There's no telephone either. Fred Narracott. He comes over every morning, sir. He brings the milk and the bread and the post and the papers, and he takes the orders.
Ought to ferret out the mystery before we go. Whole thing's like a detective story. Positively thrilling.
In my time of life, I have no desire for thrill.
The legal life's narrowing. I'm all for crime. Used to it.
Marston? Marston!
Sir.
Mr.
Marston!
Marston!
Mr. Marston! My God, he's dead!
Dead? To be the fellow just choked and died?
You can call it choking if you'd like. He died of asphyxiation right enough.
Never knew a man could die like that, just of a choking fit.
In the middle of life, we are in death.
A man doesn't die of a choking fit, General Mackenzie. Mr. Marston's death isn't what we call a natural death.
Was there something in the whiskey?
Yes, by the smell of it, cyanide. Probably potassium cyanide. Acts pretty well instantaneously.
Then he must have put that stuff in the glass himself.
Suicide, eh? That's a rum go.
You'd never think he'd commit suicide. He was so alive. He was enjoying himself.
Oh, look! One of the little soldiers. Broken.
Even up to the top. No sign of that boat yet.
It's very early still.
Oh yes, and still the fellow brings the milk and the bread and all that. I should have thought he'd be here by now. No sign of breakfast yet. Where's that fellow Rogers?
Oh, don't let's bother about breakfast.
How's the weather looking?
Well, the wind has freshened up a bit. Rather a mackerel sky. Old boy on the train yesterday said that we were due for some dirty weather. I shouldn't worry if he was right.
I wish that boat would come. The sooner we get off this island, the better. It's absurd not keeping a boat on the island.
No proper harbor. If a wind were to blow in from the southeast, then the boat would be dashed to pieces against the rocks.
But a boat would keep us from the mainland.
No, Miss Brent, that's just what it wouldn't.
Do you mean to say that we should be cut off from the land?
Ah, condensed milk, Revita, and tin stuff until the gale has blown itself out. But you needn't worry, the sea's only a bit choppy.
I think the pleasures of living on an island are rather overrated.
I wonder if that boat's coming. Annoying the way the house is built slap up against the cliff. You can't see the mainland until you've climbed to the top. Shall we go up there again?
It's no use, Doctor. A washpot never boils. There was no sign of a boat putting out when we were up there just now.
What can this man Narracott be doing?
They're all like that in Devon. Never hurry themselves.
And where's Rogers? He has to be about.
Well, if you ask me, Master Rogers was pretty badly rattled last night.
I know. Ghastly little thing.
Got the window properly, and I'd be willing to take an even bet that he and his wife did do that old lady in.
You really think so?
Well, I never saw a man more scared. Guilty as hell, I should say.
Fantastic. The whole thing fantastic.
I say, suppose he's hopped it?
Who? Rogers? But there isn't any way he could. There's no boat on the island. You've just said so.
Yes, but we've only Roger's word for that. What if there is a boat on the island and he snipped off on it first thing?
Oh, no. He wouldn't be allowed to leave the island.
Sleep well, Gerald?
I dreamed. Yes, I dreamed.
I don't wonder about that.
I dreamed of Leslie, my wife, you know?
Oh. I sure wish Narracott would come.
Who's Narracott?
The bloke who brought us over yesterday afternoon.
Was it only yesterday?
I feel that too. Batty gramophone records, suicide, it's about all a man can stand. I tell you, I shan't be sorry to see the back of Soldier Island.
So you don't understand. How strange.
I don't like the look of him.
I reckon young Marston's suicide was a pretty bad shock to him. He looks years older.
Where is that poor young fellow now?
In the study, but I'm there myself.
Dr. Armstrong, I suppose it was suicide?
What else?
I don't know, but suicide?
You know, I had a pretty funny feeling in the night. This Mr. Unknown Owen. Suppose he's on the island. Rogers may have known, or he may have been told to say so. Pretty nasty thought, isn't it?
But would it have been possible for anyone to tamper with Marston's drink without our seeing him?
Well, it was just standing there. Anybody could have dropped a dollop of cyanide in there if they wanted to.
But that...
There you are, sir. I've been all over the place looking for you. Would you come up and have a look at my wife, sir?
Yes, of course. Is she feeling under the weather still?
She's...
You won't leave the island without me.
I wish the boat would come. I hate this place.
Yes, I think the sooner we get in touch with the police, the better.
The police?
The police must be notified in a case of suicide, Miss Claythorne. You know.
Oh, yes, of course.
What is going on here? Still no sign of breakfast.
Are you hungry, General? Feeling like breakfast?
Leslie? Leslie, my dear?
No, I'm not. I'm Vera Claythorne.
Of course. Forgive me. I took you for my wife.
Oh,
I was waiting for her, you see.
but I thought your wife was dead long ago.
Yes, I thought so too. But I was wrong. She's here on this island.
Good morning.
Good morning, Captain Lombard.
Good morning. Must have overslept myself. Boat here yet?
No.
It's late, isn't it?
Yes.
Good morning. You and I could have had a swim before breakfast. Too bad all this.
Too bad you overslept yourself.
I gotta have pretty good nerves to sleep like that.
Nothing makes me lose my sleep.
Didn't dream of African natives by chance, did you?
No. Didn't dream of convicts on Dartmoor.
Now look here, I don't find that very funny.
Well, you started it, you know. I'm hungry. What about breakfast?
The whole domestic staff seems to be on strike.
Oh well, we can always go out and forage for ourselves.
Hello, that's strange.
What is?
You remember we found one of these little fellows smashed last night?
Yes, that ought to leave 9.
That ought to leave 9. I'm certain there were 10 of them here when we arrived.
So?
There were only 8.
So there are.
I think it's queer, don't you?
Probably only 9 to begin with, and we assumed 10 because of the rhyme. Hello, Armstrong. What's the matter?
Mrs. Rogers is dead.
No!
I beg your pardon.
Died in her sleep. Rogers thought she was still under the influence of the sleeping draught I gave her and came down without disturbing her. He lit a kitchen fire and did this room. Then, as she hadn't appeared, he went up, was alarmed by the look of her and went hunting for me. She's been dead for about 5 hours, I should say.
What was it, heart?
It may have been.
Well, after all, she did have a pretty bad fright last night.
Yes.
She was poisoned, I suppose, Doctor?
It's perfectly possible.
From the same stuff young Mark took.
No, not cyanide. It would have happened to have been some narcotic or hypnotic. One of the barbiturates. Or chloral, something like that.
You know, you gave her some sleeping powders last night, didn't you?
Yes, I gave her a mild dose of luminol.
Didn't give her too much, did you?
Certainly not. What do you mean?
Okay, well, no offense. I just thought if she had it,
The amount I gave her cannot have hurt anyone.
Then what exactly did happen?
Impossible to say without an autopsy.
Well, let's say for an instance the death had occurred with one of your private patients. What would have been your procedure?
Without any previous knowledge of the woman's state of health, I certainly could not give a certificate.
She was a nervous-looking creature. She had a bad fright last night. Perhaps it was heart failure.
Her heart certainly failed to beat, but what caused it to fail?
Conscience.
What exactly do you mean by that, Miss Brand?
You all saw her last night. She was accused, her and her husband, of deliberately murdering her former employer, an old lady.
And you believe that to be true?
Certainly. You saw her. She completely broke down and fainted last night. Having her wickedness brought home to her was just too much for her to bear. She literally died of fear.
It is a possible theory. One cannot adopt it without more exact knowledge of her state of health. If there was a latent cardiac weakness,
Call it, if you prefer, an act of God.
Oh no, Miss Brent.
You regard it as impossible that a sinner should be struck down by the wrath of God. I do not.
My dear lady, in my experience of ill-doing, the providence leaves the conviction and chastisement to us mortals. It is often fought with most difficulty. There is no shortcuts.
Let's be practical. What did the woman have to eat and drink last night?
nothing.
Nothing? Nothing at all? Not a glass of water or a cup of tea? I bet she had a cup of tea. That sort always does.
Rogers assures me she had nothing whatever.
Well, Rogers may say so.
So that's your idea?
Well, why not? You heard the accusation last night. What if it's true? Miss Brent thinks it is. For one, him and his wife did do that old lady in, and they're feeling quite safe and happy about it.
Happy?
Well, they know there's no immediate danger to them. And then last night, some lunatic goes and spills the beans. What is it? It's the woman. Cracks, ghost pieces. Did you see him hanging around here last night when she was coming to? Not all husbandly solitude, not on your sweet life. He was like a cat on hot bricks, and that's the position. They've done a murder and gotten away with it. But if it's all going to be raked up again, it's the woman who will get the show. She hasn't got the nerve to brazen it out. She's a living danger to her husband, and that's what she is. And him? He's all right. He'll go lying till the cows come home, but he can't be too sure of her. So what does he do? He drops a nice little dollop of something into a nice cup of tea. And once she's had it, she washes up the cup and the saucer and tells the doctor she ain't had nothing.
Oh no, that's impossible. A man wouldn't do that, not to his wife.
You'd be surprised on what some husbands would do, Miss Claythorne.
Excuse me, miss, I'm getting on with breakfast. I'm not much of a hand as a cook, I'm afraid. It's lunch that's worrying me. Would cold tongue and gelatin be satisfactory? And I can manage some fried potatoes, and there's tinned fruit and cheese and biscuits.
That will be fine, Rogers.
Lunch? Lunch? We shan't be here for lunch. And when the hell is that boat coming?
Mr. Bloor!
What?
You'll pardon me, sir, but the boat won't be coming.
What? Excuse me?
Fred Narracott is always here before 8. Is there anything else you require, miss?
No, thank you, Rogers.
And it isn't Rogers. His wife is lying dead upstairs, and there he is making breakfast and calmly talking about lunch. And now he says the boat won't be coming, but how the hell does he know?
Mr. Bloor!
What?
Oh, don't you see? He's dazed. He's just carrying on automatically as a good servant would. It's pathetic, really.
He's pulling a fast one, if you ask me.
The real significance is the failure of the boat to arrive. It means we're being deliberately cut off from help.
There's very little time. Very little time.
What's that, General?
Very little time. We mustn't waste it talking about things that don't matter.
Why do you think Narracott hasn't turned up yet?
I think the ambiguous Mr. Owen has given orders.
So it's some big joke, something like that?
Yes.
He wouldn't fall for that, would he?
Why not? Soldier Island's got a reputation for hosting crazy parties. It's just one more crazy idea. Narracott knows there's plenty of food and drink on the island. Probably thinks this is some big joke.
Couldn't we light a bonfire up on the island so that they'd see it?
It's probably been provided against. All signals are to be ignored. Cut off, all right?
But can't we do something?
Yes, we can do something. We can find this funny gentleman who staged this little joke, Mr. Unknown Owen. I'll bet you anything he's somewhere here on this island. And the sooner we get him, the better. Because in my opinion, he's as mad as a hatter and as dangerous as a rattlesnake.
Hardly a good simile, Captain Lombard. A rattlesnake gives warning before its approach.
My God, yes! That's her warning, is it not? 10 little soldier boys went out to dine. There's 10 of us after Narracott went. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. Marston choked himself, did he not? 9 little soldier boys sat up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8. That last part fits quite well with Mrs. Rogers, don't you think?
You don't think? Do you mean he wants to kill us all?
Yes, I think he does.
And each one fits with the rhyme.
No, it's impossible. It's coincidence. It must be coincidence.
8 little soldier boys here. I bet that's one big coincidence, too. What do you think, Blore?
I don't like it.
But there's nobody on the island.
I wouldn't be too sure of that.
This is terrible.
None of us will ever leave this island.
Oh, will somebody shut up, Grandpa?
Don't you agree with me, Sir Lawrence?
Up to a point. Yes.
Then the sooner we get to work, the better. Come on, Blore, come on, Armstrong. We'll make quick work of this.
I'm ready. Nobody's got a revolver on them by any chance. I suppose that's too much to hope for.
I do.
Good. Always carry that about with you?
Usually. I've been in some tight places before.
Well, I bet you've never been in a tighter spot than you are right now. Now, if there's a homicidal lunatic on the island, he'll probably have a whole arsenal, and he'll use it.
You may be wrong there, Blore. Many homicidal lunatics are very quiet, almost unassuming people.
Delightful fellows.
You'd never guess there was anything wrong with them.
Well, if Mr. Owen turns out to be one of that sort, we'll leave him to you, Doctor. Now, I suggest Captain Lombard searches the house while we do the island.
House ought to be easy. No secret panels or sliding doors.
Granted, you get him before he gets you.
Don't worry, but you two had better stick together. Remember, one got left behind.
Come on, Armstrong.
Very energetic, Captain Lombard.
Don't don't you think he's right? If there is someone hiding on the island, they'll be bound to find him. It's practically bare rock.
I think this problem needs brains to solve it rather than neurons.
Where are you going?
I'm going to sit in the sun, my dear, and think.
Where did I put that skein of wool?
Did you leave it upstairs? Shall I go see if I can find it?
No, I'll go. I'll know where it's likely to be.
I'm glad Captain Lombard's got a revolver.
They're all wasting time. Wasting time.
Do you think so?
Yes, it's much better to sit quietly and wait.
Wait, for what?
For the end, of course. I wish I could find Leslie.
Your wife?
Yes, I wish you'd known her. She was so pretty, so gay.
Was she?
I loved her very much. Of course, I was much older than she was. She was only 27, you know. Arthur Richmond was 26. He was my ADC. Leslie liked him. They were talking music and plays together. She would tease him and make fun of him. I was pleased. I thought she took a motherly interest in the boy. Damn fool, wasn't I? No fool like an old fool. Exactly like the book, the way I found out. I was out in France, and she wrote to the both of us. She put the letters in the wrong envelope, so I knew.
Oh no.
It's all right, my dear. It's a long time ago. But you see, I loved her very much and believed in her. I didn't say anything to him. I let it all gather inside her. A slow, murderous rage. Damn dumb hypocrite. I liked the boy, trusted him.
I wonder what the others are doing.
I sent him to his death.
Oh.
It was quite easy. Mistakes were being made all the time. All anyone could say was I lost my nerve a bit. Made a blunder. Sacrificed one of my best men. Yes, it was quite easy. Leslie never knew. I never had told her. I found out. We went on as usual, but things weren't quite real anymore. She died of pneumonia. She had a heart-shaped face and gray eyes and brown hair that curled.
Oh, don't.
Yes, I suppose in a way it was murder. Curious murder. And I've been such a law-abiding man. Didn't feel like that at the time. Serves him damn all right, that's what I thought. But, after, well, you know, don't you?
What do you mean?
You don't seem to understand. I thought you would. I thought you'd be glad too, that the end was coming.
I-
We're all going to die, you know.
I don't know.
You're very young. You haven't got to that yet. The relief, the blessed relief, when you know that you've done with it all. That you haven't got to carry the burden any longer.
General!
Don't talk me that way! I am going to sit here and wait. Wait for Leslie to come for me.
I'm frightened. Oh, I'm frightened.
All correct. No secret passages. One course.
Don't.
I say you do look low. How about a drink to steady your nerves?
A drink? 2 courses in the house at 9 o'clock in the morning and all you say is have a drink? And oh man, going quite crackers. Have a drink. 10 people accused of murder. That's all right. Just have a drink. Everything's fine so as long as you have a drink.
All right. All right. Stay thirsty.
Oh, you're nothing but a waster, an adventurer. You make me tired.
I say you are head up. What's the matter, my sweet?
I'm not your sweet.
Sorry, I rather thought you were.
Well, you can think again.
Come now. You know you don't really feel that way. You know we got something in common, you and I. Rogues and murderers can't fall out.
Rogues and murderers.
Hey, you don't like the company of rogues and murderers, and you won't have a drink. I'll continue my searching.
Unpleasant young man. I can't find that skein of wool anywhere. Is something the matter?
I'm worried about the general. He really is ill, I think.
Looking out for the boat, General. His sin has found him out.
Oh, don't!
One must face facts.
Can any of us afford to throw stones?
Even if his wife was no better than she should be, and she must have been a depraved woman, he had no right to take matters into his own hands.
What about Beatrice Taylor?
Who?
That was the name, wasn't it?
Are you referring to that absurd accusation against myself?
Yes.
Fine. Now that we're alone, I shall tell you the facts of the case, as I should like you to hear them. It was not a fit subject to discuss before the gentlemen last night, so naturally I didn't say anything. That girl, Beatrice Taylor, she was in my service. I was very well deceived in her. She was a clean, willing, nice girl. Of course, all of that was sheerest hypocrisy. She was a heathen with no morals. It wasn't long before she was what we call in trouble. It was of great shock to me. Her parents were decent folk, too. Brought her up strictly. Glad to hear they didn't condone her behavior.
What happened?
Naturally, I refused to keep her under my roof. No one would ever say that I condoned immorality.
Did she drown herself?
Yes,
How old was she?
17.
Only 17?
Quite old enough to know how to behave. I told her what a low, depraved thing she was. I told her that she was beyond the pale, and that I felt soiled by ever having her under my roof. I told her that a child was a child of sin, would be branded with it all of its life, and that the man would never dream of marrying her, and that anyone who welcomed her under their roof was just as bad as she.
You told a girl of 17 all of that?
Yes. Glad to say, I broke her down utterly.
Poor little devil.
I have no patience with this indulgence towards sin.
And then I suppose you turned her out of the house?
Of course.
And she didn't dare go back home. What did you feel like when you found out she drowned herself?
Feel like?
Yes. Didn't you blame yourself?
Certainly not. I had nothing with which to reproach myself.
I believe you really feel like that, and that makes it even more horrible!
That girl's unbalanced. The heathen are sunk down in the pit that they made. In the net which hid is their own foot taken. The Lord is known by the judgment. He executeth, the wicked is snared in the work of his own hand.
Breakfast is ready.
Be quiet. The wicked shall be turned to hell.
Excuse me, miss, do you know where the gentlemen are? Breakfast is ready.
Sir Lawrence Wargrave is sitting out in the sun. Dr. Armstrong and Mr. Bloor are searching the island. I shouldn't bother about them.
Shall not the isles shake at the sound of the fall, when the wounded cry, when the slaughter in the midst of thee?
Shall we go in?
I'm not hungry.
Breakfast is ready.
Then all the princes of the sea shall come down from their thrones, and lay away their robes, and put off their broidered garments. They shall clothe themselves with trembling. They shall sit upon the ground, and shall tremble at every moment, and be astonished at thee.
Reading aloud, Miss Brent.
Yes, it is a custom of mine to read a portion of the Bible each day.
A very good habit, I should assume.
What luck did you have?
There was no cover in there, no caves, no one could hide anywhere.
That's right. What about the house?
No one. I'll stake my life there's no one in this house but us. I've been over it from attic to cellar.
Breakfast is getting cold.
Breakfast? Come on, Bloor, you've been yelping for breakfast ever since you got up. Let's eat, drink, and be merry. For tomorrow we die. Who knows? It might even be today.
You ought to be ashamed of such levity, Captain Lombard.
Come on, General, can't have this. Breakfast, I say, sir. Sir? Good God. One got left behind. There's a knife in Mackenzie's back.
He's dead! He's dead!
Oh dear.
But he can't be. There's only us on the island.
Exactly, my dear sir. Don't you realize that this clever and cunning criminal is always comfortably one stage ahead of us? He knows exactly what we're going to do and makes his plans accordingly. There's only one place you know where a successful murderer can hide and get away with it.
One place. Where?
Here, in this room. Mr. Owen is one of us.
Sir Lawrence,
Well, Mr. Bloor,
I wanted to get you a letter. You were right with what you said this morning. This damned murderer is one of us. I think I know which one.
oh really?
Ever hear of the Lizzie Borden case? In America, there was an old couple killed in the middle of the morning with an axe. The only person that could have done it was the daughter, a respectable middle-aged spinster. Incredible. So incredible that they acquitted her. They never found another explanation.
So your solution to the problem is Miss Emily Brent?
I tell you, that woman is mad. Mad as a hatter. Religious mad. She's the one, I tell you, and we must watch her.
I had the impression that your suspicions were in a different court.
Yes, but I changed my mind. And I'll tell you why. She isn't scared. She's the only one who isn't scared, and that's because she knows quite well that she's in no danger.
We've made some coffee. It's cold in here.
You'd hardly believe it when you think of what a beautiful morning it was.
Are Captain Lombard and Rogers still out?
Yes, and no boat will put out in this. There's nowhere for the land anyway.
Miss Brent?
Oh, allow me.
You were right to insist on our going to lunch and having some brandy with it. I feel better.
A court always adjourns for lunch.
All the same, it's a nightmare. It seems as though it can't be true. What are we gonna do about it?
Well, later I'd like to propose an informal inquest. We may be able to eliminate some innocent people.
You haven't got a hunch of any kind, have you, Miss Claiborne?
Unless Claiborne suspects one of us three, that would be a rather awkward question.
I'm sure it isn't any of you. If you asked me who I suspected, I'd say Dr. Armstrong.
Armstrong?
Yes, because don't you see? He's had far and away the best chance to kill Mrs. Rogers. Terribly easy for him as a doctor to give her an overdose of sleeping stuff.
Yes, but somebody else gave her brandy.
Her husband had a good opportunity of many a drug.
He did it was in Rogers. He doesn't got the brains to fix up this stunt, nor the money. Besides, he's scared stiff.
Oh my God, it's something like a storm.
Ah. Oh, it's only you.
Who did you think it was? Beatrice Taylor?
No hope of rescue until this dies down. Is that coffee? Good. I'm taking the coffee now, you see.
Such restraint in the face of danger is nothing short of heroic.
I do not profess to be a weather prophet, but it's very unlikely for a boat to reach us. Even if they knew about our plight, under 24 hours, even if the wind just dropped, the sea must go down.
You're awfully wet.
Is somebody a swimmer? Would it be possible for somebody to swim to the mainland?
It's over a mile, and in this sea you'd be dashed up on the rocks and drowned.
Drowned in a pond.
I beg your pardon, Miss Brent.
After dinner or nap?
It's terribly cold in here. I could light the fire if you like, miss.
Oh, very sound scheme, Rogers.
Excuse me, but does anybody know what's become of the top bathroom curtain?
Really, Rogers? You going baths too?
The bathroom curtain.
Yes, scarlet oil silk. It's missing.
Has anyone seen a scarlet oil silk curtain? No good, I'm afraid, Rogers.
Doesn't matter, sir, only I just thought as it was odd.
Everything on this island is odd.
I'll go out and get some sticks and a few knobs of coal and get a nice fire going.
I wonder if he would like some hot coffee. He's very wet. Rogers!
What's become of Armstrong?
He went to his room to rest.
I suspect someone has battered him one by now.
I said he had the good senses to bolt his door.
It won't be so easy now that we're all in our car.
I advise you, Mr. Bloor, to not be too confident. Later, I'd like to advise a certain measure of safety that I think we should all adapt.
Against whom?
Against each other. We are all in grave danger. Of the 10 of us that arrived on this island, 3 of us are definitely clear. There are 7 of us left. 7 little soldier boys.
One of whom is a bogus soldier boy.
Exactly.
Well, in spite of what Miss Claythorne has said just now, I'd like to say that you, Sir Lawrence, and Dr. Armstrong are all of us suspicious. He's a famous doctor, and you're known all over England.
Mr. Boyd, that proves nothing. Judges have gone mad before, so have doctors, and so have policemen.
Here, here. Well, does he want some coffee?
He'd rather make himself a nice cup of tea. What about Dr. Armstrong? Do you think we ought to take him a cup?
I'll take it up for you if you'd like.
I'll take it. I would like to change.
Yes, you ought to. You'll catch a cold.
He might not admit to you, but he may be afraid of your revolver.
Ah, that revolver. I wanted a word with you about that.
Do go and change.
What were you going to say?
I'd like to know why you brought a revolver on what was supposed to be a nice little social visit.
Do you? I've led a rather adventurous life, and I've gotten into the habit of taking my revolver about with me. I've been in a tight jam once or twice. It's a pleasant feeling to have a gun handy, don't you agree?
We don't carry them. Now then, I want the truth about that gun.
What a damn suspicious fellow you are, Lord.
I know a fishy story when I hear one.
If it's about that revolver, I'd like to hear what you've got to say.
Oh, well. I got a letter inviting me to be a guest of Mr. and Mrs. Owen. It would be worth my while. The writer said he had heard I was a good man in a tight place. There might be some danger, but I'd be all right if I kept my eye open.
I wouldn't have fallen for that.
Well, I did. I was bored. God, how bored I was back in this tame country. It was an intriguing proposition, you must admit.
A little vague for my liking.
That was the whole charm. It aroused my curiosity.
Curiosity killed the cat.
Yes, quite.
Oh, do go and change, please.
I'm going, my sweet. I'm going. The maternal instinct, I think it's called.
Don't be ridiculous.
You know, that's a tall story. If it's true, why didn't you tell us last night?
He might have thought that this was exactly the emergency for which he had prepared.
Perhaps it is.
I hardly think so. It was just Mr. Owen's little bit of cheese to get him into the trap with the rest of us. He must have known him well enough to rely on his curiosity.
Well, if that's true, he's a wrong fat man. I wouldn't trust him a yard.
Are you such a good judge of truth?
We must get out of here. We must before it's too late.
The last thing we must do is give in to nerves.
I'm sorry. Rather a case of physician heal thyself, but I've been overworked lately and run down.
Sleeping badly?
Yes, I keep dreaming hospitals, operations, a knife at my throat.
Real nightmares.
Yes. Do you ever dream that you're in court sentencing a man to death?
Are you, by chance, referring to a man named Edward Seaton? Because if so, I can assure you that I'm not losing any sleep over a particularly cold-blooded and brutal murderer. The jury even had the sense to let him off. I can see, however, I cooked Seaton's goose.
It's cold here, isn't it?
I wish Rogers would hurry up.
Yes, where is Rogers? He's been a long time.
He said he'd got to get some sticks.
Sticks? Sticks! I got sticks!
My God!
What's the matter? Are there only 6?
There are only 5.
5?
Rogers and Lombard.
Oh no, not Philip!
Rogers!
Where the hell is Blore off to like a madman?
Oh, Philip,
Have you seen Rogers?
No. Why should I?
2 more soldiers have gone.
2?
I thought it was you.
Well, what is it?
In the scullery.
Is he?
Oh, he's dead, all right.
How?
Dropped in the back with an axe. Must have gotten him whilst he was bent over the wood box.
One chopped himself in half, and then there were 6.
Stop it! Vera, stop it! You'll be all right. What's next, boys? Bees? Do we keep bees on the island? Well, that's the next verse, is it not? 6 little soldier boys playing with a hive. A bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5. Bumblebee stung one, but y'all look pretty spry. Nothing wrong with any of us. God, you don't think. Hypodermic syringe.
The modern beast thing.
While she was sitting there, one of us.
One of us.
Which of us?
5 little soldier boys, sitting in a row, watching each other, waiting for the blow. New version up to date.
I hardly think this is the moment for facetiousness.
Have to relieve the gloom. They have that electrical plant running down. How about we play a nice round game? How about inventing one called Suspicions? A suspects B, B suspects C, and so on. Let's start with Blore. It's not hard to guess who Blore suspects. It sticks out like a mile. I bet I'm your fancy, Blore.
I wouldn't say no to that.
You're quite wrong, you know. Abstract justice isn't my line. I'd only commit a murder if there's something in it for me.
Well, all I say is that you've acted suspiciously from the start. You've told 2 different stories and you brought a revolver. And now you say you've lost it.
I have lost it.
That's a likely story.
What do you think I've done with it? I suggested myself that you search me.
Oh, you haven't got it on you. You're too clever for that. But you know where it is.
So you're saying I've cached it, ready for the next time.
I shouldn't be surprised.
Why don't you use your brains, Blore? If I wanted to, I could have shot the lot of you by now. Pop! 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 Pop!
Yes, but that's not the big idea, is it?
You crazy touch! My God, man, I'm sane enough!
The doctor said that there were some lunatics that you would never know were lunatics. That's true enough, I should say.
We shouldn't just sit here doing nothing. There must be something. Surely there is something that we can do. If we lit a bonfire.
In this weather?
I think the question is of time and patience. Eventually the weather will clear and then we can do something. Light a bonfire, a heliograph, signal.
A question of time? Time? We can't afford time. We shall be dead.
I think the measures of safety will be adequate.
I tell you, we shall be dead. All but one. He'll think of something else. He's thinking now.
Poor Louise. What was her name? Cleese? Was it nerves that made you do it to her, doctor?
No, drink. I used to be a heavy drinker. God help me, I was drunk while I operated. Quite a simple operation. My hands shaking all over the place. I can remember her now. She was a big, heavy, countrified woman. And I killed her.
So I was right. That's how it was.
Sister knew, of course, but she was loyal to me or to the hospital. I gave up drinking, gave it up altogether. I went in for a study of nervous diseases.
Very successfully.
1 or 2 lucky shots. Good results with 1 or 2 important women. They talked to their friends. For the last year or 2, I've been so busy I've hardly known which way to turn. I'd got to the top of the tree.
Tell Mr. Unknown, and down come the cradle, doctor and all.
Will you stop your damnable sneering and joking?
Gentlemen, please, we cannot afford to quarrel.
That's all right by me. I apologize.
It's this terrible inactivity that gets on my nerves.
We are adapting. I feel confident that the measures of safety are only necessary as long as we stay together within sight of each other. The repetition of tragedies cannot happen. We have all submitted to a search, so we know no man has any firearm or knife upon their person. Nor man has any cyanide or drug upon their person. As I say, as long as we stay within sight of each other, nothing can happen.
But we can't go on like this. We should need food, sleep.
That's what I say.
Obviously, the murder's only chance is if one of us detached from the rest. As long as we prevent that, we are safe.
Safe?
You're very silent, Vera.
There isn't anything to say. I wonder what the time is. It's this awful waiting for the hours to go by, yet feeling as though they may be the last. What is the time?
8:30.
Is that all?
Pretty awful light, this. How are the candles holding out?
Well, there's a whole box. The weather's freshened up a bit. What do you say, sir?
Perhaps we shouldn't be too optimistic.
The murderer's got everything on his side. Even the weather seems to be falling in with his plans.
How about some food?
If you like, I'll go out and open some tin tongue and make some coffee with it, but you four stay here. That's right, isn't it?
No, you see, Miss Claythorne, it might be inadvisable for us to eat or drink something that you have prepared for us out of our sight.
Oh. You don't like me, do you?
It's not a question of likes or dislikes.
There are very few tricks that will get past you, Sir Lawrence. You won't be offended by my saying so. You're my fancy.
It's hardly the time for any of us to take in the luxury of taking offense.
I don't think it's Floor. I may be wrong, but I don't feel you've got enough imagination for the job. All I can say to you is if you are the criminal, I tip my hat to you as a damned fine actor.
Thank you for nothing.
I don't think it's the doctor. I don't think he's got enough nerve. You have plenty of nerve, Vera. On the other hand, you strike me as eminently sane, so you'd only commit a murder if there's something in it for you.
Thank you.
I've thought of something.
Splendid. Animal, vegetable, or mineral.
That man says he's a police officer, but we've no proof of that. He only said so after the gramophone record when his name had been given. Before that, he was pretending to be a South African millionaire. Perhaps the police officer is another impersonation. What do we know about him? Nothing at all.
Oh, he's a police officer, all right. Look at his feet.
That's enough for me, Mr. Lombard.
Well, now we know where we are. Oh, by the way, Doctor, Miss Glenthorne suspects you. Oh, yes, she does. Have you seen her shoot you a dirty look from time to time? It all works out quite prettily. I suspect Sir Lawrence, Lawrence suspects me, and Armstrong suspects Ford. What about you, sir?
Early on in the day, I had formed my own conclusion, and with the events that have occurred, the evidence point remarkably to one person. I still have the same opinion.
Which one?
Well, no. You see, it might be inadvisable for me to say the person's name at the present time.
Inadvisable in the public interest?
Exactly.
What about that food idea?
No, we should stay here. We're safe here.
I can't say I'm hungry.
I'm not terribly ravenous myself. You can always go out and have a guzzle by yourself for it.
Tell you what, how about I go give us a nice tin of biscuits?
Oh, good idea. Oh, Lord.
Huh?
And unopened tin, Lord. It's only the wind making the curtains rattle.
I wonder what happened to the bathroom curtain. The one that Rogers missed.
Sorry, but by the wildest stretch of imagination, I don't know what a homicidal maniac wants with a scarlet oil-soaked curtain.
Things seem to have been disappearing. Miss Brent lost a skein of knitting wool.
So the murderer, whoever he or she is a kleptomaniac too?
How does it go? 5 little soldier boys
Going in for law. One God in chancery.
in chancery. But how could that apply? Unless, of course.
Exactly, my dear young lady. That is why I'm seeing right here.
Yes, but I'm casting you as role of murderer, not victim.
The term can be applied for a boxer.
But perhaps we have a free fight. That ought to let you out, my dear.
That awful rhyme. It keeps going round and round in my head. I think I'll remember until I die. Mr. Bloor's a long time.
I expect the big bad wolf has got him.
I have asked you before to try and restrain your rather peculiar sense of humor, Captain Lombard.
Sorry, sir. It must be a form of nervousness.
Put your hands up. Search him.
No, thank you.
Come now. You had no dinner.
I couldn't eat anything.
I warn you. Lore wolf the lot.
I don't see why you need to be so funny. Starving ourselves won't do us any good. How are we off for cigarettes?
Got it.
I've run out too.
Fortunately, I'm a pipe smoker.
I've got a whole box upstairs in my suitcase. I'll get them. I could do with a cigarette myself. See that you all stay where you are.
Not bad, these biscuits.
What are they? Cheese?
Cheese and celery.
That girl ought to have some.
Her nerves are in a bad state.
I think I disagree with you there, Doctor. Miss Claythorne strikes me as a rather cool and resourceful young lady. Quite a remarkable soul.
So that's your idea, is it? That she's the guilty party?
Hardly likely. A woman.
You and I, Doctor, see women in quite different angles.
What does anyone say to a nice spot of whiskey?
Oh, good idea. Provided we tackle an unopened bottle. Kira!
I can't see.
Where are
It's
you?
so dark in here.
Who's there?
Ah!
Philip, where are you? I've lost you.
Here I am!
Why can't we have some light? It's awful in the dark. You don't know where you are. You don't know where anyone is.
That damn draft upstairs, blowing all the candles out. Here, I've got a lighter.
Where's Dr. Armstrong?
I'm hunting for the matches.
Never mind matches, get some more candles.
I was horrified to death. It went right around my throat.
What did?
The window was open in my room. It blew out the candle as I opened the door. And then a long strand of seaweed touched my throat. In the dark, I thought I was being strangled by a wet hand.
I don't wonder you yelled.
Who hung that seaweed there?
I don't know. When I find him, he'll be sorry he was ever born.
Who's that?
It's all right, Miss Claythorne. It's only me.
Here we are. Who fired that shot?
He's dead. Shot through the head.
One got a chancery, and then there were four.
Miss Claythorne.
Vera,
You got me out of the way. You got me to go upstairs for cigarettes. You put that seaweed there. You did all you could kill that helpless old man in the dark. You're mad, all of you, crazy. That's why you wanted the red curtain and the needle. It was all planned long ago. For that, oh my God, let me get out of here.
three little soldier boys sitting in a row, thinking as they tussle, who's next to go?
Oh, Philip.
That's all right, Miss Claythorne. I don't mind choking on a full stomach.
I must say, I was hungry. But all the same, I don't think I shall ever fancy tinned tongue again.
Oh, I was wanting that meal. I feel like a new man.
We've been nearly 24 hours without food. That ought to lower morale.
Somehow, in the daylight, everything seems different.
You mustn't forget there's a dangerous homicidal lunatic running somewhere loose on this island.
Why is it one doesn't feel jittery about it anymore?
Now we know, beyond any possible doubt, who it is. Amplor?
That's right.
Was the uncertainty before, watching each other, wondering which?
I said all along it was Dr. Armstrong.
You did, my sweet, you did. Until you went completely bat and suspected us all.
Seems rather silly in the light of day.
Very silly.
Providing it is Armstrong, what happened to him?
Well, we know what he wants us to think has happened to him.
What exactly did you find?
One shoe. Just one shoe. Sitting prettily on the cliff edge. The inference Dr. Armstrong has gone completely off his onion and committed suicide.
Oh, very circumstantial. Down to the last fucking China soldier in the doorway.
I think that was rather overdoing it. A man wouldn't think of doing that if he was going to drown himself.
Yes, but we're quite sure he didn't drown himself. But he had to make it appear as though he was the seventh victim, all according to plan.
Suppose he really is dead?
I'm a bit suspicious of death without bodies.
How do you think Armstrong got a hold of your revolver anyway?
Haven't the slightest idea.
Tell me exactly what happened in the night.
Well, after you threw your fit of hysterics and locked yourself in your room, we all thought it'd be a good idea to go to bed. So we locked ourselves in our rooms.
About an hour later, I heard someone pass by my door. That's when I went to Blor's room, and he was there, all right. And then I went to Armstrong's room, and it was empty. That's when I came to your room and told you to sit tight, whatever happened. And then I came down here, and the window to the balcony was open. And there was my revolver, lying just beside it.
But why the devil should Armstrong chuck that revolver?
I don't know, either an accident or he's crazy.
Where do you think he is?
Lurking somewhere, waiting to have a crack at any one of us.
We ought to search the house.
What? And walk into an ambush?
Oh, I never thought of that.
I'm quite sure you heard no one moving out after we went.
Oh, I imagined all sorts of things, but nothing short of setting the house on fire would have gotten me to unlock my door.
I see, just thoroughly suspicious.
What's the use of talking? What are we gonna do?
If you ask me, do nothing. Sit tight and take no risks.
Now look here, I wanna go after that fella.
Oh, what a dog of the whole dog breed you are, Blor. Between friends and without prejudice, you did go for that little spot of perjury, didn't you?
Well, I suppose it doesn't make any odds now. Landor was innocent, all right? Between us, Me and the gang put him away for a stretch. Mind you, I wouldn't admit that now if it wasn't that.
You think we're all in the same boat?
Well, I couldn't admit that in front of Mr. Justice Wargrave, could I?
No, hardly.
Say, that fellow C, you think he was innocent?
Yes, Wargrave had a reason for wanting him gone. Well, Laura, I'm delighted you've come off your virtuous perch. I hope you made a tiny bit of it.
Nothing like what I ought to have. Terra meat lot that many, gang. But I got my promotion though.
And Landor got penal servitude, died in jail.
Well, I couldn't have known he was gonna die, could I?
No, that was your bad luck.
His, you mean?
Yours too. Because as a result of that fact, you might get your life cut short unpleasantly soon.
Me? By Armstrong? Oh, watch it.
You'll have to. Remember, there are only 3 soldier boys left.
And what about you?
I'll be quite alright, thank you. I've been in a tight place before, and I've gotten out of them. And I mean to get out of this one. Besides, I've got my revolver.
Ha! That revolver! Now you say you just found it lying there. What's to say you haven't had it on you the whole time?
Same old gramophone record as before. Huh. No room in your head for more than one idea, is there?
No, but it's a good one.
And you're sticking to it.
Now look here. If you're an honest man, as you
Oh,
pretend,
come
you
on, we're
swear
neither
you
of us
ain't found
honest.
the revolver.
Don't be an ass!
I said I'll go through the house looking for Armstrong. If I'm willing to do that, then will you lend me the revolver?
No, it's my revolver and I'm sticking to it.
Then do you know what I'm beginning to think?
You're not beginning to think, you square-headed blatty. You thought it last night, you've gone back to your original idea. That I'm the one and only you and Owen, is that it?
I won't contradict you.
Think what you damn well please, but I warn you.
I think you are both behaving like a pair of children.
Sorry, teacher.
Of course Captain Lombard isn't the unknown. The unknown Owen is Armstrong, and I'll tell you one very good proof of it.
Oh, what?
Think of the rhyme. 4 little soldier boys going out to sea, a red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. Don't you see the subtlety of it? A red herring? That's Armstrong's pretended suicide, but it's only a red herring, so really he isn't dead.
Oh, that's very ingenious.
To my mind, it's absolute proof. You see, it's all mad because he's mad. He takes a queer, childish, crazy pleasure in sticking to the rhyme and making everything happen in that way. Dressing up the judge, killing Rogers when he was chopping sticks, using a hypodermic needle on Miss Brent when he might just as well has drugged her. He's got to make it all fit in.
Oh, that's very ingenious. Where do we go from here? 3 little soldier boys walking in the zoo. A big bear hugged one, and then there were 2. Ha! He'll have a job with that one. We don't keep a zoo on thee, I. I say, how about a nice bottle of beer?
Do stop thinking of your stomach, Lord. That craving for food and drink will be your undoing.
But there's plenty of beer in the fridge.
Yes, and if someone wanted to get rid of you, the first place they think of putting a lethal dose of something is in a nice bottle of beer.
What's that? A boat! A boat! Ah!
Lord got his.
How?
Booby trap, all set. A wire across the door and touched something above.
Is he?
Yes. Crushed. Head stove in. That big bronze bear holding the clock from the landing.
A bear? Oh, how ghastly! It's just awful childishness!
I know. God, what a fool Blore was.
Now there are 2.
Yes, Vera. And we'll have to be very careful ourselves.
We shan't do it. He'll get us. We'll never get away from this island.
Yes, we will. I haven't been beaten yet.
Don't you feel that there's someone now in this room watching us? Watching and waiting?
It's just nerves.
Then you do feel it.
No, I don't.
Please, Philip. Let's get out of this house. Perhaps if that was a boat, they'll see us.
All right. We'll go to the top of the island and wait for relief to come. It's sheer cliff on the far side. We can see if someone is approaching us from the house.
Anything's better than staying here.
Won't you be rather cold in that dress?
I'd be colder if I were dead.
Perhaps you're right. A quick reconnaissance.
Be careful. Philip, please.
Don't worry. I'm not Blore. There's no window directly above. Hello, that's strange. There's something washed up on the rocks.
What? It looks like a body.
You'd better stay here. I'm gonna have a look.
Armstrong. Armstrong's body.
It's Armstrong. Drowned. Washed up on the high water mark.
So there's no one on the island. No one at all except us two.
Yes, Vera. Now we know where we are.
Now we know where we are.
Pretty little trick of yours, that wire. Well, Justice Wargrave knew you were dangerous.
You-
So you did drown that kid after all.
I didn't! That's where you're wrong! Please believe me, please listen to me!
I'm listening. You'd better make it an interesting story.
It isn't a story, it's the truth! I didn't kill that child. It was someone else.
Who?
A man. Peter's uncle. I was in love with him.
Oh, this is getting quite interesting.
Don't sneer, it was hell! Absolute hell! Peter was born after his father's death. If he'd been a girl, he would have got everything.
The well-known tale of the wicked uncle.
Yes, he was wicked and I didn't know! He said that he loved me, but that he was too poor to marry. There was a rock far out that Peter was always wanting to swim to. Of course I wouldn't let him, it was dangerous! One day, when we were on the beach, I had to go back to the house for something I'd forgotten. When I got back, I saw Peter swimming up to the rock. I knew he hadn't a chance. The currents had got him already. I flew towards the beach, and Hugh tried to stop me. Don't be a fool. I told the little ass he could do it.
Go on. This is interesting.
I pushed past him. He tried to stop me, but I got away and rushed down. I plunged into the sea and swam after Peter. He'd been gone before I could get to him.
And everything went off well in the inquest. They called you a plucky young girl and kept quiet if you was part of the business.
Do you think they would have believed me? Besides, I couldn't. I really was in love with him.
And then I suppose Hugh let you down?
Do you think I ever wanted to see him again?
Well, you are an accomplished liar, Vera.
Can't you believe the truth when you hear it?
Who set that trap that killed Blore? Wasn't me. And Armstrong's dead. I've broken most of the commandments in my day, and I ain't no saint. There's one thing I won't stand for, and that's murder.
You won't stand for murder? What about those natives you left to die in Africa?
That's what's so damn funny. I didn't.
What do you mean?
Mark you, just once. Mark you, I played the hero. I risked my life to save the lives of my men. I left them my rifle, my ammunition, and all of the food there was. I took a chance in the bush. By the most incredible luck, it had came off. But it was too late. Rumor got spread around that I deliberately abandoned my men. There's life for you.
Do you expect me to believe that? Why, you actually admitted the whole thing!
I know! I got such a kick out of watching their faces!
You can't fool me with a stupid lie like that!
Blast you!
Why didn't I see it before? It's there in your face! The face of a killer!
You can't fool me any longer.
Oh. Now!
Cunning little devil.
You take one step near, I'll shoot!
You, young, lovely, and quite mad.
It's all come true. My plan, my rhyme. Silence in the court! If there's any more noise, I'll have the court clear. Don't be frightened, my dear. It's all right. This is the court of justice. You'll get your justice here. You thought I was dead. Armstrong said I was dead. That was the clever part of my plan. Said we'd trap the murderer so he'd fix up my supposed death so I could freely spy upon the guilty. He thought it was a brilliant plan. He came to me at night at the edge of a cliff with no suspicions. I pushed him over so easily. He definitely swallowed my red herring. You know, Miss Claythorne, all my life, I wanted to take life. Yes, take. I had to get what enjoyment I could out of sentencing the guilty to their death. I enjoyed it a lot, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to do it with my own hands. But I'm a judge of the high courts. I have a sense of justice. Between our Lord Arcane and the prisoners at the bar, will true deliverance make guilty? Yes, guilty! You're all guilty! And the law couldn't trust you and you knew it! Silence in the court! First, Mr. Marston, then Miss Rogers with barbiton in the brandy, then Kenzie stabbed, then got Rogers while he was chopping sticks with an axe. Then doped Emily Brent's coffee so she couldn't feel the hypodermic. And the booby trap for Blore. Blore was a fool. I knew it'd be easy to get him. Retrieving this revolver, though, that was an interesting touch. I knew you two would suspect each other out. The question was, who'd win out? I banked on you, my dear. The female of the species. Besides, it's more interesting to have a girl in the end. Prisoners at the bar, do you have anything to say why your sentence shouldn't be passed on to you? Vera Elizabeth Claythorne, I sentence you to death!
Stop! I'm not guilty! I'm not guilty!
Of course. Must say you're not guilty unless you want to go all out and get the verdict of insanity. But you're not mad. I'm mad. But you're not.
But I'm innocent. I swear it. I didn't kill that child. I never wanted to kill him. You're a judge. You know when someone is guilty and when they're innocent. I swear I'm telling the truth.
So, you didn't gun that little boy after all. How interesting. Well, it doesn't matter much now, does it?
What?
Well, we can't ruin my lovely rhyme. My 10 little soldier boys. One little soldier boy, left all alone, went to hang himself. I must have my hanging! My hanging!
It's all right, darling. I'm all right.
I thought you were dead. I thought I killed you.
Thank God women can't shoot straight. It's not straight enough.
I shall never forget this.
Oh, yes, you will. You know there's another ending to that little soldier boy rhyme. One little soldier boy, left all alone. We got married. Then there were none.